The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, episode 84.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter, aka Father Fett, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Just a few reminders right off the bat. You can get your own official Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt, or you can get a coffee mug, sticker, magnets, all sorts of things that encapsulates our philosophy of finding hope in a galaxy far, far away. All you have to do is go to sqpn.com/merch to get your own today. Also, we have a fancy new way to join the StarQuest fan club. You can text StarQuest to 66866. Also, of course, just a reminder to please share the podcast on your favorite social media so that way other people who might be interested in listening to us talk about Star Wars will hear us. And also leave us a review, if you will, on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. So that way, again, we can get seen by more people who would be interested in hearing our crazy take on all things Star Wars. So that would help us out quite a bit. Today, we are discussing the 11th episode of The Bad Batch. This is called Devil's Deal. And joining me tonight on the panel is Thomas Sanherho.
Hey, Father, it's good to be here.
It is, yeah. I think both of us were gone last week, so it's kind of
right. So we're just filling in the gaps, right?
Right. So it is just Thomas joining me tonight. So we are duoing this episode, which is going to be a great one to talk about.
I was going to say we totally lucked out.
I know.
This was unexpected and awesome.
Right. Yeah, but before we get to that unexpected awesomeness, I did want to point out, and Mike and Angela talked about this last week, but since we didn't join in that conversation, I wanted to throw this out there. Just another brief kind of discussion on the upcoming Star Wars Visions anthology series, which is coming in September. Star Wars released a special look 3-minute video a couple weeks ago, and I have to say that I am super excited about this. Thomas, I'm assuming you are as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
I figure you have more of the Japanese kind of interest probably than some of us do.
Yeah, anime. I'm going through all of the Studio Ghibli films right now with my kids, so
okay.
Anime is very much a part of my blood.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's actually funny. My wife debated marrying me because I was such an anime fan. Which is great now because she's like sitting in the room watching it with me. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I won her over. Yes,
she made the right choice. That's awesome. Anything in particular you're excited about?
I'm actually excited about the Astro Boy take. That one looks really good to me. I mean, obviously, everything samurai. That's the Jedi, 100% sure. But I'm really looking forward to that one. And then there's one that seems like it might almost be kind of like a Cowboy Bebop as well, which is that the one that he said was like a rock opera was the way he described it. So both of those are the two that I'm really excited about.
Okay. Yeah. I like how they're having they approached a bunch of different studios, so they're all going to be Japanese based, but they're going to have different flares.
Right.
So I'm fascinated by your take because the one that caught my interest was the one called The Twins. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason that it called to me is it looks like it's telling a story of twins of the dark side is kind of what it was framed as. But I'm such a fan of the twins in the Legends universe, Jason and Jaina, and that where one goes dark and one goes light and they have to battle it out. So I'm hoping there's a similar a similar thing happen there, but I don't know. But I too am excited. I haven't really delved into anime a whole lot. I mean, I grew up on Pokemon and still kind of in that, but I don't know if I consider that like,
it's your toe in the water. It's getting there.
And and I have seen Sword Art Online. I've watched, and I think Steins Gate, because that's a time travel one.
Oh, see, those are both great. Those are really good, solid.
So, but beyond that, I haven't really delved too much into it. So this will open my horizons just a little bit.
Yeah, I like the way they phrased it too. There was one part where they were talking about what they wanted from it, and when they presented it to the artists, apparently they presented it as your story through the lens of Star Wars. And it's important to get it that way. It's not Star Wars through the lens of anime. It's an anime story through the lens of Star Wars. And
well, and you have to say it the way that they did. It's their vision, right, through the lens of Star Wars.
There you go.
So Star Wars visions. Yeah, I'm excited. And what's great is that's gonna come somewhat at the in between when the Bad Batch ends and we're waiting for the Book of Boba Fett. So it'll be kind of a natural. Disney is doing a pretty good job, I think, of rolling these out so they don't overwhelm us and leave us with too much to digest. So
yeah, let's kind of leave the Marvel stuff. They've got that way too, where it's like there's like a week or two break between them, and then you get slammed with the next one.
Which it works. It because it builds the anticipation. I think Loki was Loki the one that like broke all the records of even the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Like you just build off the anticipation of the previous series and just and I think we are in Star Wars probably seeing that. I would imagine we're at the beginning of that, because as we head into the Book of Boba Fett and then all the others, the Andor series, the Ahsoka series, I think we're just going to kind of just build on all of that. So
well, I'm really hoping for more of this of this kind of thing where it's a not tied, very much not tied to the main storyline, but hey, just I want to know what you are thinking, and then just here's some guidelines for how to keep it inside of the Star Wars universe, right?
That's one of the other exciting things about Visions is we have no idea what time frame, what era. Right. We know nothing, and I would love to see it just bounce around, like not all Old Republic or New Republic or just new fresh stories that with characters we've never seen before. So I think we're all going to be super excited for that couple months, September. So back to post Clone Wars era. Let's jump into this episode of the Bad Batch. So we already sort of hinted that there's something unexpected about this episode, but Thomas, what was your just general impressions?
I think first off, I like that we're expanding past just the batch themselves, right? So it's not just Clone Force 99, but it's something that we had started touching on, right? Like where do they fall into everything? Why aren't they at this part? Why aren't they participating in the rebellion? And now we see some of how they were, even if they weren't aware of it or directly influenced by it. So that to me was like a really, it was good to take a step back from their story, give us some perspective, because I think now we're going to start getting their story pushed in that direction as well.
Yeah, I put in my notes, I said this was a Bad Batch light episode.
Right.
I've seen this done, like if any of you are fans of Doctor Who, sometimes actually one of my favorite episodes is actually a Doctor Light episode.
Which one?
Blink.
Oh, yep.
And that's kind of universally acclaimed as one of the best Doctor Who episodes out there. But, like the main show, the main character that the show is named after, like shows up for just, a real small fraction of the episode. So this kind of fell in line with that for me. And it worked. And it worked because I've already experienced it and I've been okay with it. The other part of me was also sort of, I really wanted to hang with the Bad Batch, because we're growing to know them and kind of, and so it was somewhat initially like shocking that, we're not hanging out with the Bad Batch this time. It's they still play a role, but they're not the focus. In fact, that's probably one of the missions that they did that actually went completely smooth, and they didn't have any.
There was no disturbance for them in this mission.
Right. And of course, I think we need to address the Twi'lek in the room.
Right.
Hera.
Got to talk about her. Hera.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was great to see her. And it's also good, like, to kind of give us a clear perspective of where everything is occurring. So we know we're right at the beginning of the Imperial reign, and so that's clear. But none of these characters appear in such a way that we have like a touchstone for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hera really fills that role of being that, oh, we know she's as old as Omega. Now that puts Omega in frame where we know how old Omega is when everything else is happening down the line. And it just clears so much up. And it's such a simple way to do it that I wouldn't have thought of. And the storytelling aspect of it is just fantastic. Let's step away from our main characters, but let's give all the context you need for what's about to happen.
Yeah. Well, and her as a cameo, and more than a cameo, I mean, she's essential to what's going on, but I did not expect Hera to make an appearance in the Bad Batch. I figured Kanan was our only like major, like, we know him from Rebels. And so to see Hera and Chopper was really, really cool. And this is also coming from Angela, but props to Vanessa Marshall.
Yeah. The voicing was great.
I initially I had to like watch the credits and make sure that it was her.
Yeah, well, I was the same way. I was sure it was not her because it was such a different. Yep. Not only the accent being different, right, but just the childlike quality that she brought to it was so fantastic, and that's not something you can always do as a voice actor. Is just like affect that childlike tone, right? But she did a great job with it.
Right. Well, and when I rewatched it, what I noticed was when she laughs, it is the same Vanessa Marshall laugh. So
I'll have to check that out.
I was like, okay, yep, there she is, and yeah, just really cool. And I'm glad that she was able to do the voice again for her character, which makes me think that when we interviewed her on the show, surely she had already recorded her lines
had either done it or was in the middle of doing it. Yeah, one of the two.
Because I remember asking her, what she was most excited for, and her response was the Bad Batch. And now that just gives us, and
now I know why.
Right. My initial thought after seeing the first episode was she was excited because Kanan and Freddie Prinze Jr. got in there, but yeah, she's a part of it too. So that's super, super cool.
Well, and to get that feel for the character that she had set up so well, because the way that she gives voice to Hera's longing for being in the ship, right, for being in the pilot seat. It was so good throughout the rest of the stuff, throughout her already being a pilot, right? But to then go back to before she's been a pilot and really just have that same sense of like wanting to be in space and striking all the notes just right for that was really good.
Well, and even where she has that like daydreaming scene where she's caught by the clone troopers, but I mean she's daydreaming about being a pilot, and fit the character so beautifully. Well, then we'll jump into the recap here because it all circles around Hera. But the episode starts off with on Ryloth, the Empire is asserting control. And so just to kind of I had to kind of take a step back and remember that Ryloth appears in the Clone Wars. And so we've seen Cham before, recently on Rebels because he shows up in Rebels, but he also shows up in the Clone Wars where I think Master Windu is one who helps liberate Ryloth from the Separatist control. So we've seen Cham before, and so he's right involved in this conversation between Senator Ta and Admiral Rampart, and they are trying to convince the Ryloth, the Twi'leks, that this partnership with the Empire is a good thing. And of course, the Twi'leks are very resistant to this. They just want to be free, and they don't listen to Senator Ta when he makes an announcement, but they tend to listen to Cham when he comes out and says that, hey, this is kind of what's best for us, and we have to focus on the future.
Well, it's that natural. They have that. So anybody who doesn't know the backstory to this group of people, they were basically enslaved. Like the whole planet was enslaved. And it was very common. That's you see it in the original 3 movies that there are most often when you see a Twi'lek, it is that they are a slave to someone. And so that's the history that they come from. And when they joined the clone forces helped liberate their planet from that slavery. And so that's part of what's being built in here. So they have a very natural distrust for authority figures,
right?
Except for leaders that earned their place, like Cham, who led them through that victory and through all the things that they needed to do to become free. Mm-hmm. And so now, the first thing we see is that they're being asked to lay down their arms and go back to just being subjects of another group. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Cham being the one who led them in that liberation, he's the one who has the hearts of the people, and they're very willing to follow him, even when he suggests that they need to lay down their arms because they trust him. And that keys in later on, because they're Admiral Rampart is trying to break that trust that they have with Cham, and we'll see that kind of play out later. We then switch to where Hera's at, and this was the fun reveal. Well, I guess, did you expect to see Hera when we saw Cham and his wife?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was like, oh, all right.
I figured
there's no way they're going to keep her out of this.
The other thing to point out, and I don't know if her name was actually said out loud, so I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce it, but Eleni is Cham's wife. Mm-hmm. And I think she's only showed up as in art form in Rebels. She was part of
the tapestry
of Hera's family. Mm-hmm. So I think at some point she dies after roughly this timeline or time period before Rebels, and it's not clear exactly when that happens.
No, but it's interesting because and we'll get to it as we go through the rest of the episode, but you see the development of the character that Cham is, and tying that back to who he is in Rebels, and then back to who he was in the Clone Wars, mm-hmm. is a really interesting the wave that he goes through, the passage that he goes through to become who he is later. Mm-hmm. There's got to be some trauma there. So that's. I was wondering if they were going to go that far in the show. Honestly, I was expecting that they might hit that note, but and there's still some story left here, so we'll see.
There is. The next episode, I pulled it up on IMDb. The next episode we know is called Rescue on Ryloth. So I mean, we're not done with this particular arc yet.
Ooh.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess, we don't know exactly when she dies and whether or not this is the moment where she dies. If she dies, that would cement Cham's opposition to the Empire.
Oh yeah.
So, because that's what we see in Rebels,
and I think that's really that's the driver, right? Because
mm-hmm.
we know, I mean, having seen this now, it's not anything that's just limited to like minor stuff. It seems like he really needs a shove off the edge.
And there's also an alienation between Hera and Cham.
Mm-hmm.
So they could all be related somehow. I know, and I haven't read the book, but Lords of the Sith, the novel that was written fairly quickly when Disney took over, Cham plays a role in that book as a freedom fighter.
Okay.
But I can't say too much because I don't know the context other than that. So I don't know if that gave away any plot points either. But listeners, if you can help us fill in the dots, just shoot us an email.
Yeah, definitely. We can't read them all. There's just too much.
I know, and I feel so bad because like I think Mike and I are probably the bookworms out of the group, and like I end up picking the books that grab my attention most, and I get through those first, and then like the ones that don't are just kind of lower on the shelf that I already have 50 books in front of.
Well, see, my problem is that I got too deep into the old universe, and so when they started the new universe thing, I'm like, I know I can't keep up with everything, so I'm just not going to. I'm sticking with the shows.
Yeah.
But that being said, my Comic Con locally to me in Tampa is going to have Timothy Zahn.
Oh, are you going to go?
A few weeks. I'm going to go. I'm going to be there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
If you name drop me, he would probably remember because he has signed so many books for me.
I'll make sure to bring you up.
Oh, that's awesome. He is such a fun guy to meet. Cool. I've met him at Comic-Cons, but I've also met him. There was a couple times pre-COVID when some of his newer Thrawn books were coming out that he was in Denver for a book tour. And
very cool.
I'm 2 hours away. I'm going to go to a book tour with Timothy Zahn.
And
so he's such a fun guy to meet. So say hi for me.
I will do so.
And it's funny that you're talking about that. I'll circle back to Timothy Zahn and Thrawn here in just a little bit, and it'll become clear here in a minute. But we first of all go to Hera and see her for the first time, and her and Chopper, which was really cool to see because we knew that they had a long history together, and so this shows again how long their history is together. That Hera's a fairly young girl, and Chopper's more or less the family droid.
He's the oldest member of her family.
Yep.
If you're talking about the Spectre, the Spectre group.
Yep. So she's off spying at the mine, the refinery, because she's gathering intel for her uncle Gobi.
Right.
And but she of course gets caught daydreaming about flying, and that's when she gets caught by the clone troopers. So they bring her back.
I love, but we get a moment of Chopper there too. That's because she turns around and looks at him, and he throws his hands up like I give up.
Yep.
Like he was supposed to be the lookout, and no, he was not doing his job.
And Chopper's not quite as mischievous yet. I think
it looks like that's going to get built into the character.
Yeah. So they of course then bring Hera and Chopper back, and there continues to be this debate between Gobi and Cham, where Gobi is convinced that laying down their weapons is a mistake, and Cham tries to argue for cooperation with the Empire, and so they continue to kind of go back and forth on that. Hauser, the clone commander, is also recognizing that there's this tension, and so he brings Hera back to Cham and says that they won't report it, just make sure she doesn't do it again. And of course we all know Hera's going to get in trouble again, because that's Hera.
Yeah, that's Hera.
So but we see this I guess two paths kind of put before us, the one with Gobi, and Hera gets involved with that, and Cham, and they're both inherently, or not inherently, wrong paths. They're both trying to do the same thing, which is peace for Ryloth and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Cham is unaware, of course, of the Empire's dictatorial, tyrannical kind of modus operandi.
Right.
And so he's trying to work with them rather than against them. And ultimately, of course, he's going to have to work against them to be free.
And it's interesting because we're piggybacking this one off of an episode where we saw the other side of the coin, right? Where it was a federated world that did not want to join, largely did not want to join, so much so that the senator actually was willing to sacrifice himself as a martyr for that cause. And so you see the way that war can tear things up, and the way that being an ally with someone, when they were on your side, it was great because they had the right intentions, right? With air quotes there, right? Because they were on your side. They were helping free you. They were providing you a means to free yourself, and then to have that taken from you, and that same group come in now and say, okay, now give up your weapons and do what we say. We were your allies. You can trust us. It's a challenge. And I love when we start to get into these deeper parts of the wars of Star Wars, and see as easy as it is to see a Jedi and a Sith as good and evil.
Right.
It's very much harder to see everything else in all the shades of gray that it possibly has.
Well, and I think this series is trying to, I think, highlight some of that, because I remember a conversation it must have been with the Bad Batch, maybe when they were talking to Rex or one of the other clones, that it was easier to be a soldier. And it's much harder for them now where they're not quite sure where their place is, what's right and wrong. It was easier to just be a soldier and follow orders.
Right.
And yeah, now they're in this kind of ambiguous place where they have to trust their instincts and their conscience. And I mean, and I think we all suspect that this is exactly what is going to be what's going to prompt the Bad Batch to stop being mercenaries, so to speak, and join Rex or join kind of the larger fight that will become the rebellion. So we have Cham talking to Hera just a little bit, and of course Cham is trying to say that they're going to get through this, and Hera, oh, she's got a fiery spirit. I would not have the guts to have talked to my dad the way that she talked to her dad about, she wants to go fight and join her uncle, but that's Hera. And Cham, of course, just takes it in stride. It's he knows her.
Well, and you see, you get it from both of them. Like you get over the course of this episode, you see how she got that fiery spirit from both her dad and her mom. That they both instilled that in her. Yep. And I think part of it is that you want your child in this kind of case. Once you've bought your freedom, you've fought so hard for your freedom. You want to make sure your child has that freedom too. And it's and some of that is putting up with them speaking their mind and dealing with that as it comes.
Yep. Yeah. And we see that in her mom in this next scene. That's when the Cham and Eleni go and get a tour of the mining facility. And because Eleni is starting to speak like Gobi and not trusting the Imperials, and she's starting to kind of go down that road. But this is going to be the Thrawn circle back around, because the mine is for Dunium.
Right.
And Dunium, when I heard it sparked the memory. Dunium it's a heavy metal that they mined that they build the Death Star with. So, and in the first Thrawn book that was written post Disney purchasing Lucasfilm, Dunium becomes a major plot point because Thrawn is able to deduce that something large is being built because all this Dunium is being shipped to this unknown location. And by the end of the book, Thrawn deduces that the Death Star is being built. So I just had to throw that out there. Dunium wasn't just a throwaway sort of mineral that they're mining, which also makes sense that Admiral Rampart is very particular that they will protect Ryloth. And not because they want to protect the people, they want to protect the Dunium mine, because that's part of how they're building the Death Star. So I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, well, then it makes the intelligence that they're gathering, because you would think they know their own planet, like they would know what these guys are doing, but the intelligence they're gathering is more significant when if they were able to keep tabs on how much is being drawn out,
right,
and how much of a mining facility it is.
Yeah, and of course the Empire, they're just kind of claiming that it's going to be help rebuild the galaxy, right. So they are going to couch it in all of those terms and modify the books however they need to get away with it. So at this point, Gobi and his small group of fighters are going to do a supply run, and I love how Gobi convinces Hera to go along. And I can totally relate. Like, Hera knows that she shouldn't, and yet when Gobi offers her the chance to fly, she is absolutely on board.
Well, I love she turns around and tells Chopper, "Cover for me." It's like, oh, that's a mistake.
Yeah. But definitely, like, as a kid and growing up on the ranch, I remember even my dad letting me drive the tractor, if he was going to go, feed the cows or something. And like, that was the coolest thing to do. And you can't say no to something like that. And Hera, that's just in her blood. And the supply mission goes relatively smooth, like we kind of mentioned. The only hiccup was that Crosshair, of course, is watching and plants a tracker on them as they leave the planet. Which I expected a confrontation.
I was thinking, okay, so this is another Crosshair, but no, they saved it. It was good.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out something else here. You notice Omega's on the trip. So She must have won her game.
I fully expected her to.
Oh yeah.
but even that again raises questions. Like, that means she beat Hunter at Dejarik, which had to have been an impressive amount of strategy on Omega's part. So yeah, she's part of the crew. But even though she's part of the crew, she's still the kid, you know, like, like, you know, when she's showing Hera the controls, and Tech won't let her fly unless she has all the specs.
Until she can learn everything. Yeah, that's so Tech. Right.
But I love how that was balanced with Hera being like, well, flying's about a feeling too. You know, it's not just, and it's true, it's not just knowing about it. You can know all about something and be terrible at implementing it. You know, it's
exactly
both and. So that was that was a really fun scene. I liked watching those two interact.
But I will tell you, the funny thing is, having taken flying lessons, that is not a way a pilot approaches a plane at all. Because both of the pilots that I have been in with these lessons, they'll like look at you and go, okay, let's taxi out. And you're like, what? And they're like, let's taxi out. And so then you have to ask them questions like, what exactly do I do? And they're like, well, okay, look around, the pedals will move. And then they'll like make you ask questions about everything. So you're up in the air, like, you know, the plane's going to fly itself. That's largely what the point they want to make, right? Is the plane's going to fly itself. You don't need to worry about most of the stuff that's going on. But yeah, you don't need to know the controls to fly a plane, basically, is their kind of mantra.
Which adds a whole different element to this. This is probably Tech's way of saying, I don't want you to fly the ship.
That's exactly what it is.
Because she could totally just fly it by feel rather than knowing all the specs. Oh,
that's his job. He likes doing that.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. So, that whole situation was a fun scene to see. And then what also was interesting about that was, again, we see Hera's desire to fly and to, just, well, live on a spaceship, I guess, because she was almost jealous of Omega, that Omega lives in the Gunner's Mount.
Right, she was in this palace on Ryloth, and, you know,
right. But of course, those of us who know what happens to Hera, I mean, the ghost becomes her home, you know, and so she gets that eventually. So they have this supply meetup with the Bad Batch. That's their 2 minutes of fame in this whole episode. And but again, this was interesting too, that Sid is still sort of this ambiguous character, but I think Sid is ultimately on the side of the rebellion over the Empire. So these weapons were sent, well, they came from Sid, but they were ordered by Gobi and all of them. So it you know, Sid sent Clone Force 99 to deliver these weapons to Gobi, which also was an interesting point too, because they paid their debt. So they're still at least willing to work for Sid, even if they aren't in debt to her.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because it means that they're starting to see value in the work they're doing, not just in trying to survive, but that they need a purpose, and that they're kind of starting to get that.
Yep. So the weapon handoff happens without a hitch, and Omega tries to convince the Bad Batchers that flying is like a feeling, as her new friend taught her, which was a fun way to end them.
Yeah. I have a feeling that's going to be coming up the next episode too.
I want to see her trying to convince Tech that this is why she should fly, because it's about a feeling. Yeah. So then Gobi and their ship goes back to Ryloth, and they are shot down by Crosshair, because of course he's waiting, and shoots out one of their engines. And so they crash and are ambushed by clone troopers. And Admiral Rampart and Senator Ta arrive. And of course, as I was watching these scenes play out, I knew it was already planned out. I mean, Crosshair was already on board. If you watch Admiral Rampart, even after they get after they capture Hera's group and they're on the transport, Admiral Rampart just looks bored. Like he is not at all concerned about anything because he already knows what's going to happen.
Well, he wins either way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of it. Is that if Cham loses control there, he's won. If Cham doesn't lose control, he's got a backup plan. So So some interesting things happen. They first of all catch Hera and Gobi, and they are not. I mean, they're happy that they caught him because they're going to charge him for treason, but they want Cham to be the one to make the mistake, because even if Hera is the one who gets caught, Cham is the one who has the hearts of the people, and so Admiral Rampart is really trying to discredit Cham, and so at that point, some of Gobi's scouts report back to Cham and Eleni that Hera's been captured and Gobi. And so that's when Cham and Eleni jump into action, as any parent would do when their child is in danger. And that's when we have that final kind of confrontation that they do ambush the transport ship, and Cham confronts Senator Ta. And the implication is that Cham is going to shoot Senator Ta. He's never trusted him. He's in it more for himself. And this is the part where you had mentioned that Admiral Rampart's going to win it either way. If Cham shoots him, he wins. If Cham doesn't shoot him, which is what happens, Crosshair shoots him. They'll take it. that works either way. I do have to say, out of all of the characters from the Clone Wars, this was the one that I disliked the absolute most.
Senator Ta?
Senator Ta. Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was just totally skeezy like the whole time.
Remind me, is he's in the movies too? Isn't he the one? Mm-hmm. He's the one in the Senate, like the right-hand man to Chancellor Palpatine. Yeah.
He's one of the ones that pushed for the vote to give him emergency powers and everything. So that's
yeah. I just he's built different enough that I never really quite associated him with Twi'leks. So he's a bit heavier set, and his
he's
Leku,
got the 4 Leku.
Yeah. So, so he's kind of been a thorn in our side for many years at this point. But I do have a question here, because Crosshair shoots him, and it looks like he took him out. I mean, like, he was shot in the head,
yeah.
But at the end of the episode, they are going to be charged with attempted assassination of Senator Ta. So I was confused by that potential problem.
I think I took that to mean that Rampart didn't want to overplay his hand in front of everybody, because there were too many witnesses there that he knew he wasn't 100% on footing with all of them to just be able to outright say that this was an assassination.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. Which actually adds a whole nother layer of things. Hauser, the clone commander.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if he's not if he's trying
Good
to
soldiers follow orders was not his mantra, right?
Right.
He was skittering around that edge there. So that's why kids the whole time were like, oh, looks like his chip's not working very well either.
If it was good soldiers follow orders, he would have reported Hera right at the beginning of the episode.
Right. Exactly.
So okay.
Yeah. That adds a whole layer of like, wait, are the clones outside of that range now that they can? Because, and if you remember, Crosshair has had his chip in hand,
right?
So he's not only is he in the loop that they were in of following orders, but he's actually ramped up beyond that because they wanted to make sure that he was going to stay loyal. So maybe there was a limit on Order 66, and that it only was going to be able to give them control over the clones for a limited amount of time. And if so, now are the clones going to be going through all sorts of like PTSD stuff where they start going, man, I just killed a guy that I was in service with and that was a good person, and I know they were a good person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they're thinking back about the Jedi. Yeah. It's intriguing.
Yeah.
We need more information about this clone.
Stay tuned. Yeah. now that we talk about it, I fully expect Hauser we haven't seen the last of him.
Yeah, I doubt it.
As a total side note, they also spent way too much animating his hair to make him just a one-off sort of appearance.
That's hey, that's my wife's first comment. Hey, it's a clone with good hair. Look at that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's actually where we end the episode. Hera and Chopper have sort of escaped in a speeder, and everybody else has been captured. Cham and Eleni and everybody else. And Rampart sends clones out to find Hera. So this is going to be continued in the next episode, Rescue on Ryloth. So not sure where that's going to go and if everyone comes out of that alive, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, and this was, I think, out of all of the things that we've seen in this series, this was the most direct violence that we have, that we've experienced.
Yep.
So,
yep. I'm remembering.
That was interesting.
I'm remembering when Crosshair takes out Saw Gerrera's camp.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't as direct. It was very cold-hearted, but it wasn't. It didn't quite show it directly. This was a more direct.
We actually saw the whole effect, and you know, that's a lot of the violence. It's been more violent than the Clone Wars or the Rebels, because obviously it's people versus people rather than people versus droids. But this was the most violent that I think we've seen out of any of the animated series yet. And I would be interested to be corrected on that, but I think that really this one is.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I think I would agree with you. I mean, I'm assuming your kids are handling it all right.
Yeah, no, I might. Well, my kids watch Doctor Who, so like they're used to like really, really extreme stuff. Although I will tell you, so I got to tie into the story with this, because when they were little, we watched Babylon 5 with them. So and Babylon 5 is a pretty intense show. It's got a lot of really intense scenes, really good science fiction makeup and animation and stuff. And my daughter was about 8, 9, I think, when we were watching it, and she came to us one night and she said, I don't want to watch this show anymore. I don't know that I can watch it anymore. And we're like, oh, what's wrong? Because, we talked about makeup and we talked about, stage acting and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I don't like seeing people get hurt. And so we're like, oh, but I mean, it's all fantasy, but if you're uncomfortable with it, that's fine. She said, yeah. But then she went on to explain the fact that she thought that the actors were actually being shot. And then there was like a medic on hand to like bring them back from whatever. We're like, no. Nope. So, we went into, it was around the time that the Face Off show was on, where they were doing all the stage makeup for sci-fi things. So we let them watch that with us too. So they got to see, how all that stuff gets put together. And once she understood it, she was fine. But the poor thing, she thought that they were like, they were that dedicated to their craft that they were going to get shot, get patched back up and put together and then sent back out there.
Some, not intentionally, but some who do their own stunts do indeed get hurt. Well, and that's the innocence of childhood too, is they take what they see as the truth. Yeah. I wanted to circle back to the title of the episode, Devil's Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thought on this, and I'm curious to see if you had different thoughts or the same thought. There wasn't an explicit deal going on, except for what I could imagine between the Cham and the Ryloth or the Twi'leks and the Empire. And so I took this to mean the devil here is the Empire that the Twi'leks are making this deal with. And the idea behind that being the devil wants to come across as like, I've got your best interest at heart, but really there's this ulterior motive, and really, if you say yes to that deal, it's gonna destroy you in the long run. And Admiral Rampart is basically saying we have Ryloth's best interest at heart, but really it's all about just the Dunium, and they could care less about the Twi'leks.
Well, then there's layers to that too, right? Because there's the whole of Ryloth to the Empire, but then there's also Senator Ta to Rampart, because basically what Ta wants is to just have Cham out of the way so that he can be the leader and going forward. And you see how that plays out for Ta in the end, and it's not good. And because it doesn't benefit the devil, the Admiral Rampart, the Empire, for anyone to be consolidating power. So what they really want to do is destabilize the whole thing. And if they can do that, then they win.
Yeah, well, and Ta's out of the picture at this point, and Cham likely is going to be discredited somehow because of it. So, yeah, I think that's an adequate description of what they were going for. The other random kind of observation that I had to share, and this was actually pointed out to me by Dom, and I appreciated it. He noticed that every time that Hera is in focus, Leia's theme is playing in the background.
Yeah, I had to go back and watch a couple scenes just to catch that, but I knew there was something special about that, and I was trying to remember if Hera had a specific theme in Rebels, and I went back and watched, and I didn't see any. I didn't catch any of it. So
yeah, I don't recall any specific thing, but there are clear parallels to the between her and Leia, and
well, and her and Luke too. That's the other thing that struck me is, this is the way she talks is very much how Luke talks when we first see him on Tatooine, where he's even flying around a model jet while he's standing there. So he wants to get off planet. He wants to be a pilot. He wants to go into the stars. So she's very much that same string of character as those two.
Yep. Well, and I will say it was Leia's theme, but it was a variation on it. It wasn't exactly Leia's theme. It was
it's from the newer movies. It's one of the variations that they well, it's a little bit of a variation on that too, but it's that same kind of lilt to it when we see her appear as a senator.
Yep. So that was cool. You kind of get the heroine sort of prelude to her going forward. That was all that I had for just kind of general observations. Did you have any other things, any final thoughts to throw out?
I really liked the scene between her and Omega. Like that just, it made the episode, honestly, because you almost see the two of them both cement their path forward when in that conversation. And it's so brief, but it's like one of those things that I really hope they run into each other more. I hope that there's a lot more interaction between the two of them.
Well, and they're both the kids here, so there's an instant sort of bond. As they left Omega, I loved how she said, like, Hunter was like, "Did you make a new friend?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's kind of weird, but I like her.
I like her."
I hope that we see them together again. This begs the question, and is like, and I'm sure we'll get some answers, but we never see Omega in Rebels. So like sometimes these prequel sort of stories, I feel like we're sort of getting the short end of the stick here, because I would love to see like an adult Omega run into an adult Hera. And at least in Rebels that never happened. So I guess there's still potential out there, but some of these new characters that they're introducing, I would love to see them in other.
I have a thought about that.
Oh, please share.
I have a thought about that. Omega is a clone name, right? So it's like a name that she's been given because she's the last clone from the string of clones that they could get from. She's a master tactician. There are a few master tactician figures in the Rebels that we don't have a backstory for. So I'm wondering if maybe her name changes and she is someone that we know already, that they're fleshing out a backstory for in an unexpected way.
Well, I'm
going to leave it at that, just to be vague enough to like.
That could be a fun reveal.
That would be
this
really
character
cool.
that we just knew forever. That
that we don't have any. We don't have a lot of information about their past, but they've kind of been there, but we know them by a different name.
Right.
I'm kind of hopeful that that's where it's going. We'll see.
That would be a fun way to do it, rather than something like the the rebel with the white beard in on Endor in episode 6, who just, you know, like, that's Dave Filoni has kind of pointed out that's Rex,
right?
You know, rather than some kind of obscure character, but have it more someone that we know more about, or that we've encountered more. That would be fun. I mean, or I think there's still potential that we might see her in, like, the Book of Boba Fett, or you know, something like that.
Well, it makes sense. It's his sister, right? So,
well, and Omega would know. She would know of Boba, but we don't know if Boba knows of Omega. So, there's a lot of potential here. I think this could be an exciting thing to be revealed.
I would point out that we also don't know who hired Fennec the first time to get her. We can make assumptions based on the interactions that they have on Camino, but they never state directly that they had hired her to capture Omega the first time. The second time, yes.
Because I sort of just assumed it was Lama Su, because she
just wanted her back.
Right. I guess it's not clear, but I sort of just assumed it was the same.
It makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
But
because then I'm forgetting. No, sorry, did I get those wrong? Nala Se. Gosh, their names. Nala Se is the female. She was the one who hired Fennec at least the second time, because she wanted.
I think the second
she wanted
time,
Omega not killed, and then Lama Su, the male, hired Cad Bane to just retrieve her, dead or alive kind of thing. Well, but I guess he didn't. He was less concerned about retrieving her alive, but he was trying to.
Right. Just needs the genetic material.
Yeah. Kaminoans. I swear. So confusing. Okay. Any other final thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm dying to know what happens with the rest of this, and I really I don't think anybody minds the sidetrack that this one took.
No, I don't think so.
It's so good, and because it's so clearly important to the larger story of Star Wars.
Yeah, and I think we're finally to a point where, like, yes, it's the Bad Batch. The series is called the Bad Batch, but obviously the story is not just hyper focused on them only. The whole point of the Bad Batch is to tell the larger story of what's going on in the galaxy post Order 66, and this just falls into that. Right. Now, I don't think we're ever going to find an episode where the Bad Batch don't appear. I think they will have something, you know, unlike the Clone Wars, where you would have some characters not show up, and, you know, the story would be focused on other characters. I think they're going to still be the thread, even if it's just they show up for a supply run and leave. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. And then, I guess part 2 of the Ryloth plot is coming at us this week. So stay tuned for that. That would then conclude our discussion of this episode of The Bad Batch. And listeners, of course, we always want to know what you thought. And please share your thoughts with us, and in the various ways. You can email us any comments or feedback at starwars@sqpn.com, and you can comment on our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or you can tweet at us, and we're on Twitter at SQPN. And we would like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Megan F., Patrick R., Peter V., Ambrose B., and Jacob G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows that we make here at StarQuest. And you can join them by going to sqpn.com/give. Also, of course, please make sure that you are subscribed to the show if you are not already, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or you can find us on the SQPN YouTube channel. Just be sure to click that bell to get notifications on new episodes. And of course, you can find all of our previous episodes by going to sqpn.com/Star Wars. And we will be back next week as we will be taking a deeper look into episode 12 of The Bad Batch. So until next time, Thomas and Herho, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
It was great to be here.
And once again, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.